Thank you everyone for joining today. We will get started here in just a moment. I do already have a question that came in. Just so everyone knows, we are recording this presentation, and all attendees will receive a copy as soon as it renders, so potentially by the end of the day, by the end of Thursday at the latest. So we will have that ready for you as soon as possible. Okay, in just a moment, I'm going to pass it over to my first presenter. Thank you everyone for joining Proficient and Pega for today's presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat window, the questions window here, and they will be addressed throughout. And right now, I'm going to pass it over to Udi Sharma. And Udi, I believe you are muted.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining this webinar on fleet management with Pega. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Yudi Sharma, and I work with Proficient. Been with the organization for 12 years, and I serve as the Pega Practice Director, overseeing the execution and delivery of Pega projects. The goal of this webinar is to discuss how the right strategy can help identify and mitigate risk in supply chain and transportation. We intend to focus on the industrial trends to highlight how other organizations similar to yours are effectively deploying Pega-based solutions and using it to drive their business. So our agenda today is to go over our partnership with Pega. We will also talk about how we can manage external factors impacting supply chain. And we will talk about managing internal risks within the supply chain operations. This will be followed by an overview of Pega's fleet management application. And we will also talk about some of the use cases at a high level to see how other organizations are leveraging Pega to meet their goals. Next slide, please. I'm very excited to introduce our panel speakers today. We have Aaron Fromm. Aaron is the Senior Manager in the Solution Consulting team in Pega. We also have Andrea Cruz, who's a Solution Consultant with Pega. Aaron and Andrea will provide us with an overview of the Pega's case management platform, followed by a live demo of transportation and logistics solutions. And then we also have Bob Bennick, who is our Supply Chain Management Chief Strategist at Proficient. Bob will be providing us with insight into supply chain risks and operations. Next slide, please. Pega and Proficient have been partners for a little over than 12 years and have delivered successful implementations across different industries. What we do together is we look at combining Pega's digital process automation platform with our supply chain and delivery expertise to create custom solutions for our clients. We follow an agile methodology to help create custom solutions, and we test, deploy in an iterative process. Using Pega's layer cake technology and implementation best practices, we look to build repeatable assets and solutions to build and scale rapidly. If you have any questions, please feel to share them via the chat. It's being monitored, and we'll take them at the end of the session. Caitlin, do you want to take the polling question next?
Yes. So we do have a polling question that I'm launching right now. The question is, what supply chain risk are you most concerned with? Carrier distribution, supply risk, demand risk, shifts in the market, or other? If you could please choose the radio button that best kind of outlines your concerns. We will close this poll in about 30 seconds, and we will move on to Bob in just a moment. All right, I'll be closing the poll now. It looked like the majority of people chose supply risk and shifts in the market. We did have a few people choose other. If you would like to share your other concerns, pop it in the questions, and we'll make sure we address some of the other issues that customers are encountering. All right, right now I'm going to pop it on over to Bob.
All right, so if we can jump forward to the next slide. I thank you all for your time and good morning. I think it's interesting that you both that you hit the you know, the supply risk and shifts in the market. Shifts in the market would have been probably my number one answer as well. You know, as we look at the risk in the market, the question really becomes how are we listening to the different risks and disruptions to the market? You know, we're so used to looking at that supply and demand risk and really understanding what's out there. But now, you know, as we reach further and deeper into the supply chain, what's happening with our competition? How does the market change? What happens with respect to our carriers, and what are the capabilities of our carriers? How do they deal with the wide spectrum of impacts that's going on with them, and you know, and ultimately what's going on in the countries and the parts of the world that we're reaching into to get our initial raw materials, to get manufacturing. We're so much a global economy that we're dependent on the information from everywhere within this expanded supply chain that that really is much larger and much more complex than ever. And I think one of the things that's most interesting as we look at what's happening with supply chain is that most of these factors are things that we've always looked at as a supply chain industry. We've always wanted to know about them. We wanted to know how it impacts our business. But ultimately, what's different today is the tools and the access to data to actually help us make more educated decisions than we ever could in the past. So if we can move on to the next slide, it starts to talk about kind of that traditional S&OP life cycle that we live in. If we can move forward to the next slide. Unless I have to, oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So, you know, you look at that S&OP life cycle, we're looking at data from suppliers, carriers, but now we're pulling in data from opportunities, you know, that we never really could look at from a systems perspective. How do we pull in news, whether it's, you know, whether it's weather or it's information of labor changes in a particular part of the world. Those are things that are now feeds that get into our analytics with respect to what's going on in our supply chain. You know, as we look at this particular discussion, it really is going to focus on what happens with respect to transportation and how does that impact our ability to get the product that we've planned for. You know, anywhere from weather events for sea shipping to weather events which impact trucking or you know, whatever it can be. Those are things that historically we've had to rely on the people in our supply chain organizations to do manually, to really lean on their ability to reach out and look for that data and find that data. But now that we start looking at how do we expand the capability as we add new tools to the game and get to a point where we can start doing analytics based on the availability of data rather than, you know, spending. It's so often I talk to clients and we talk about their planning process and ultimately how they get their arms around what's going on as far as that supply. And, you know, if they get their planning cycle, almost 3 weeks of that cycle is how do I get the data, get to a point where I actually can kick out my metrics and my numbers. And we don't have enough time to spend analyzing and evaluating and making key decisions on the information that is provided to us. So the the further back into that data analysis cycle we can get and let tools and, you know, AI, whatever it may be, get us stronger, it lets the smart people in our supply chain organizations be able to better analyze the data and make smart decisions based on what's out there, and adjust to those risks. So as we move forward to the next slide, this represents kind of how Perficient and Pega together look at the overall environment of supply chain capabilities. You know, this is a pretty standard slide as far as a full spectrum of services from, you know, from the planning side all the way through the maintaining and service of whatever your particular product is, whether it's a retail product and dealing with the reverse logistics side of things, or in a lot of cases, as you know, as we deal with a lot of these heavy industries where their supply chain is implementing a network of components that are supported by your fleets and bringing devices or repair parts or whatever it is. But looking at that full spectrum from planning through service, and then really in this particular discussion, we're going to drill down on how do we optimize transportation within that overall picture, whether that's a use of omni-channel fulfillment within your transportation where you're able to use delivery trucks or partners or even local couriers, or is it how do I optimize this large investment in a massive fleet that I've got that's out, making sure we're keeping our network up and running if we're a telco company, or we're keeping the gas lines running if we're an oil and gas company. Full spectrum of using that asset that we've got within the transportation component of our supply chain. So I think we have another of these pop-up surveys at this point. So I'll pass it back over there unless there are any questions.
All right, I'm launching the second poll right now. So what aspect of fleet management do you value? The options are driver training and onboarding, driver safety and incident management, driver and workflow management, proactive customer service, or other. We'll give you about 30 seconds from now to submit your answers, and then we will go to our demo. Okay, we have answers coming in. It looks like the majority of people are kind of split between driver safety and incident management and driver and workflow management. We do have additional responses for proactive customer service. So thank you so much for sharing. All right, and right now I'm going to kick it over to the Pega team, to Andrea Cruz.
Thank you. All right, can I get a confirmation, Caitlin, that you're able to see my blue screen? Transportation and logistics, excellent. Yep. All right, well, thank you both, Judy and Bob, and Caitlin. So as I said, we're gonna focus on transportation and logistics today and how Pega's helped the customers in these fields to solve their business problems. The Pega team that you have with you is myself, Andrea Cruz. I'm a solutions consultant, and I've actually brought Aaron Fromm, a solutions consulting manager as well, because our team really has that hands-on experience with a lot of the customers that I'm going to talk to and talk about today that are in our transportation and logistics group. So first and foremost, why you should listen to us. So Pega's helped all types of transportation and logistics customers solve all different types of problems, and not just the easy ones. So for example, our first one, Estes, they needed a better way to manage the complex freight and over 20 million business rules. And Pega helped bring together both their IT and their business to manage and optimize over 50,000 freight pickups and deliveries a day. Next to that, with CR England, they wanted to focus on their driver retention and safety. So Pega is helping CR England support 7,000 drivers by creating driver profiles and cases to provide fleet managers with improved visibility and next best action recommendations to impact the overall fleet health. We're actually going to show you this today when we go in and we handle a safety incident for one of our drivers. Next, FedEx is going to go through a global acquisition. And what they really needed was a technology that seamlessly integrated to ensure operational success. The true challenge was connecting more than 20 functional and geographic teams without increasing problem resolution time across the massive logistics network. With Pega's scalable solution, FedEx had their core application up and running in 90 days and saved approximately 40% of the expected merger-related problem resolution time. And not only that, but when the pandemic hit, it massively accelerated the e-commerce growth, and FedEx was ready. With Heathrow Airport, Heathrow actually uses Pega for our ability to handle the real-time operations. So Pega automatically creates and coordinates every element of operations required for flight turnaround time and to make it happen in the shortest amount of time possible. Everything from gate coordination, how much baggage needs to be loaded and unloaded, and determining the time that's required to load the passengers for the next flight. Oh, and they completed their first phase in just 9 weeks. And last but not least, Aaron's most recent baby is our Canadian Pacific Rail, CP Rail. 15,000 mile network, and right now, Pega's rebuilding their customized terminal management application to help yard managers to direct their crews as they manage traffic coming in and going out of their yards. So all of these customers, what they have in common is their ability to quickly handle the complexity and variability and to make each and every transformational goal a success. And how they're able to do that is with our Pega Infinity platform. So quick history, Pega was founded in 1983 by our current CEO. We actually started out as a BPM company and focused on the financial industry, but we've evolved so much in those 30 years. So today we focus on combining intelligent automation with customer engagement. And our core offering is the Pega Infinity platform that you see on the top right there, built with powerful digital process automation, business rules engine, and case management capabilities. What you'll see on the right is how we help companies with CRM and their customer engagement strategies. And we at Pega are our own best friend because as we evolve, as we grow and come out with new offerings, we build Pega on Pega so we know that it works. We use our Pega DX architecture approach to give you the best case management platform, helping you to handle any complex situation by combining real-time omnichannel AI with end-to-end automation and giving you that industry-leading technology. We use the microjourney-centric approach and the situational layer cake to help you get started quickly and scale easily and see a return on your investment quickly. And our software actually writes to your software so that we can utilize and future-proof your current technology investments while giving you cloud choice to run your applications where you want to run them. And I'll talk a lot about case management or this concept of microjourneys and how we use it to help get you started. But essentially what case management is how we get work done. It's the entire process for a microjourney involving both the human and the technology. It's receiving the work either through the web, phone, email, or even an upstream system, routing that work by work type or business logic, and reporting the business activity on that work as it comes in. But it's not just the intake, the routing, and the transparent reporting. It's the research that goes into finding the answers. It's the responding, whether it's to a person for a status update, or driver route details, or pinging a system to kick off a process up or downstream. It's that unified system automated guided processing approach that gets us to a resolution. So on the screen, you'll see a few of the microjourneys that our transportation and logistics clients are using today. Notice that some of them are pretty simple, but most can get pretty complex. So let's actually get into the good stuff. And feel free to ask questions throughout. Caitlin's monitoring that, and she'll be able to chime in and ask those questions so we can answer them as they're relevant. So I'm going to show you today the power of Pega from a fleet manager's point of view, and we'll see it from two different storylines. The first will be a driver whose truck is actually sending signals that the driver isn't driving the safest. And the second from a driver who's actually looking to make it home for a few days. A few of the key KPIs and focus areas that our fleet managers are focused on is first, driver turnover, because it's really high in the industry. Safety for both the drivers and others on the road, the content in the trucks, and of course, the costly trucks themselves. And lastly, on-time performance is critical. So in our first story, we're going to log in and we're going to review our dashboard as the fleet manager. We'll then take a phone call from John Brown, who's had quite a few safety incidents in the last week. And when we do that, we'll have a 360-degree view of his profile and information. So I've logged into my Pega Fleet Manager portal, and the first thing that I'm going to see is my own configurable dashboard where I can see reports and data that's important to me. I can see how my drivers are doing. I can make sure that they're on schedule or see any deliveries that are potentially at risk or already knowingly delayed. Next to that, I can see my fleet drivers that I manage and how long they've been there. And under that, I have my fleet health data. So this data actually shows me a calculated probability of that driver leaving. But we're not just reporting. So we also have the ability to drill down into each report and take action. Take the interaction summary by channel, for instance. So this report might not be as important to me as it would be a customer service rep, and I might not be the one who's directly communicating with the customer, but it's extremely important to the business as a whole. Ultimately, I'm the one who's going to be having the answers for all of these customers or vendors who are calling in to see if a scheduled delivery is going to be late or if it's already too late. And taking those phone calls, it's time consuming and it's expensive. And Pega can help get ahead of the game with the transparent communication. So we actually do this today for Republic Services. Republic Services does trash pickup for thousands of customers each week. And you never really see them until you don't see them. Can you imagine being a family of 5 and trash doesn't come pick up one week? Or take the Texas weather disturbances that happened last month, or a truck breaks down that's assigned to a certain route. Republic didn't want people calling into the call center. They wanted to proactively be able to send communication out to customers and let them know, hey, we're running a bit late, just leave the bins out and we'll pick them up later this evening. So Republic did that with the text. Even something as simple as communicating when trash pickup day would be on a holiday week has saved a huge amount of time and phone calls. So back to our story real quick. As the fleet manager, on this dashboard, I can see any of the work that's assigned to me that I need to work on. So for example, the very bottom piece, my fleet drivers are requested some time off. I'm in charge of scheduling, so it was routed to me accordingly. Pega puts SLAs on work that needs to be done. So if I don't get it done in a timely manner, the right type of escalation can take place. For example, sending me a reminder, or if I'm out of the office or don't answer in a timely manner, maybe rerouting to a peer manager or my reporting manager. And as a fleet manager, I'm seeing all of this on a single pane of glass. I'm able to track my important metrics. Work isn't going to slip through the cracks. And I'm able to have direct communication with my drivers. So speaking of, John Brown's one of our drivers, and we're getting telemetry data from John's truck. So our trucks are powerful and complex, and they have sensors that actually dial home. And we're getting this real-time telemetry, so there's a lot that we can proactively do regarding safety. We can see real-time braking truck info, lane deviation. So if the driver starts getting outside of their set metrics, it can alert the fleet manager so that we can have a conversation with the truck driver about that. John has 3 or 4 too many safety incidents. The truck is sensing those. And when those incidents happened, I've actually asked John to give me a call so we can have a discussion about that, see what's going on, and avoid any other major issues in the future. So when I answer that call in Pega, we're going to see John's 360-degree driver profile. And the information that we see is Pega pulling data from all different systems and giving the fleet manager relevant data that he or she needs right in front of them. That data isn't being stored in Pega. Rather than ripping and replacing, we're actually using the wrap and renew method, where we're taking advantage of previous technology investments, like your backend systems of record, SAP, telemetry, in-cab devices like Qualcomm, etc. And we're really being that orchestration layer. So we're going to pull up his safety incidents, and we're just going to have a chat with him about what's going on. John seems a bit distracted and understands that he probably needs to do better. Since he's had quite a few incidents, though, rather than just giving him a warning, discussing it with him, we're actually going to go ahead and enroll him in some training. We definitely want to keep him around, but we also want to make sure that the road is safe. So John understands and agrees. We'll enroll him in that training. It's going to get routed to me for approval. And as soon as I hit approve, John's actually going to get an email with documentation that we've discussed those safety incidents. And our training team is also going to get an email with the details so that we can help keep John on track. and they're automatically sent. They're as detailed as we want them to be, and everything is saved in Pega's history for auditing purposes. Excuse me. Also, because we're able to get telemetry data, we can actually use that data to determine what's called a fatigue score for that driver. And a lot goes into a fatigue score. So how long has that driver been driving? How many hours has that driver been driving? How likely is it that that driver's to brake heavily or deviate from their lane based on past incidents? A lot goes into that equation. And with CR England, we've actually seen that we're able to reduce safety incidents and those costly rollovers. Something else that we've also noticed when working with some of our transportation customers in the industry is when drivers are distracted, many times it's when they're considered disgruntled, they're unhappy, or they're looking for a job elsewhere. We actually want to retain these drivers, and I can see that John has a pay raise coming up soon. So while I've got John on the phone, I want to let him know about that, and I want to go ahead and get that process started. And we've noticed that a lot of times these conversations aren't happening, but if they were, it would be just enough to keep John around. So we're done with John. As we go to actually wrap up this call, we have everything that we've done captured in this case, all documented and saved so that I don't have to take the time to do that. And we're back to the beginning. So we saw a lot happen in that first story. We saw how Pega can go beyond being a regular BI tool, and we're actually taking action based on those reports. We saw how Pega can orchestrate multiple systems into one single unified pane of glass, showing relevant data that our fleet managers need to do their day-to-day jobs. We also saw how Pega can use the omni-channel capabilities to keep communication transparent, either for customers, our own employees, or for required internal auditing purposes as well. I'm going to stop there and take a quick drink. Caitlin, have there been any questions that have come up in the chat that I can answer?
Not just yet.
Alrighty, I'll go ahead and move forward. So the second piece that we're going to see, we're actually going to handle an ad hoc request where Sarah going to call in. She's going to request some time off to go home. And while we're on the phone, Pega's going to let our fleet manager know that Sarah's CDL license is actually due for renewal soon. And we're not going to let that slip through the cracks. So we're back at our fleet manager portal. And if I scroll down again, I can see that I have a couple of home time requests that are waiting for me. So I could either pick these up here just by clicking on them. Maybe I received an email, but for demo purposes today, I'm actually going to have Sarah Connor call in. Once again, when we answer Sarah's phone call, we can see Sarah's full 360 driver in front of me. So I've got Sarah on the phone and she's requesting some time off for the next couple weeks because it's her son's birthday and she wants to be home for it. Part of my job is scheduling my drivers and making sure that while someone is out, we have backup and we won't disrupt the business. So I'll go through her time off request and you'll notice that she doesn't have to give a reason, but she can. You'll notice it's not a required field. April 8th. What's going to happen next as soon as I hit submit is it's actually going to kick off an approval request for me. But what you don't see happening behind the scenes is Pega's gone out to our scheduling system to see if there's someone who can cover that route or if that route can be adjusted. Pega's doing that initial research for me, and it's actually giving me a recommended action, allowing me to feel comfortable to approve Sarah's time off. And once I hit submit, it's actually going to notify our scheduling system and our scheduling team, so Sarah can't be booked for that time, and any of her scheduled deliveries can actually be adjusted without disrupting the business. Again, all of the actions are captured. But if I look down at the left-hand corner, there's a bright blue box down here. I can see that Pega's giving me another recommended action. So Sarah's CDL license is coming up for renewal. While I've got her on the phone, I'm going to make sure that she's reminded and she's actually going to get that process started. So I've got her on the phone, say, hey, Sarah, let's make sure that while you're home, you brush up on your knowledge and we can get your CDL license renewal task complete. We know it expires in May. We're going to get your physical exam scheduled. We can get you DMV scheduled. We're going to make sure that we're going to stay ahead of the game. Again, as we go to wrap up, the tasks that we've all worked on, all of that information is being captured. So you'll see on the screen here in a moment. So you'll see on the screen that our home time request has been completed, but our CDL renewal task is still open. She did receive an email notification with a reminder, but that's not yet complete. And she's going to continue to get reminders until that task is complete. So I don't have to go through and wrap any of that up. All of this information is already captured. And we're done with Sarah. So we saw that Pega is able to handle ad hoc requests and keep systems in sync. We're able to improve drivers, dispatchers, managers, and customers' experience with in-transit visibility and improve the day-to-day operations with the ability to not only receive work, route it, report and take action, but also to help get the research done, have transparent communication internally and externally to respond to customers and ultimately lead that work to resolution. Before I hand it over to Yudi, are there any questions?
I think we have one. Mary, do you want to share that question? I think you might be muted. Do you want to just pop it in the questions box? Right. If you want to move on, Andrea, if you have anything else you'd like to share, I'll pop in with this question once we get the technology figured out.
Yeah, actually, I was just going to hand it back to Yudi.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you all. Hopefully this was helpful for everyone on understanding how Pega and Perficient can help solve some of the problems around supply chain. Do you want to take that question now, Caitlin?
I'm still waiting for it to come through. Mary, do you want to try again?
Okay.
I've got it. So I believe the question might have been, can the system support the size of any fleet? I might pass that to Aaron Fromm, because Aaron, you have a lot of experience with some of the larger customers as well.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. The answer to that question is yes, we can. We pride ourselves on being able to scale up to basically any size. So really quick history lesson about Pega is we did get our start in highly regulated industries in financial services and insurance. So we work with a lot of the largest companies in those industries. So scaling up to it is no exaggeration to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of transactions per day. So our systems can size to that level and do that either on cloud, in the cloud, or on-prem. So sizing up to high levels of transaction is not an issue with Pega, and we do that all the time.
Sharon, any other questions? Or is there anything else that anyone would like to see or touch upon? We can certainly visit those as well. Any other pain points that you guys come across today in your work?
Yep, I'm not seeing anything else at the moment, Udi. Thank you all for attending today. We are going to wrap up a little bit early, but again, everyone will receive a copy of the on-demand version of this webinar. We'll also make sure to include some contact information for both Pega and Perficient in case you have any additional questions that you think of after today's event wraps. Thank you again all for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day.